I'm listening to you all the time. There's a lot of work that it comes with.
Yeah,
And
a
our
lot.
minds if it's tired and burned out, it's going to be harder to do that
Yes.
work.
Welcome back to another episode of the Clinicians Table. I am your co-host, Jarena Davis.
And I am Tabitha Azor. Jarena and I are licensed marriage and family therapists, and we focus on our work on the integration of mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health.
All the things. And as we come to the close of season 1, it's going to be done. We wanted to go ahead and talk about what we talked about. So what we talked about integration. We talked about freedom.
Right.
We talked about wholeness that leads to freedom. We talked about safe spaces. What are some other things we talked about?
Vulnerability.
Yes.
How to show up in those safe spaces as clinicians and as human beings.
Yes.
And how all of that connects with the church and the clinical space.
Yes.
Overall.
And we talked about shame. I think in our last episode, we touched on shame and how shame can impact us mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And how certain spaces that can elicit shame that shouldn't, I don't want to shit on people, but you know what I mean. And so today we are going to talk about boundaries,
Burnout.
and balance.
3 B's.
And so with that, part A is that's what we're going to focus on, about certain cultural and systemic, messages and narratives that clinicians get that can add to burnout, or just people in general. And we're going to talk about the boundaries that we get to create to avoid such a burnout. So, ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great, because I'm throwing it at you, Tabitha.
Please don't.
When you think of burnout, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, I imagine anybody, right? Clinicians, and because you can get burned out anywhere. You just at the end of your rope. You're exhausted to the point where your brain cannot fully focus anymore on what it is that you are doing, or you can't be fully present in everything that you're doing, and it can look differently for different people.
Yeah.
What do you think about when you think of burnout?
Out of network, not connecting.
Yes.
You reached your capacity, your capacity is done reached. You're past it, or your bandwidth is totally tapped out. So you may have the capacity, but you don't have the bandwidth. That's what I think about when burning out. I am interested in, what do you think burnout? How does burnout look differently for clinicians than other people, or people in the helping professions versus people in tech professions or otherwise?
I think we get peopled out sometimes, right? Because we are consistently and constantly, some clinicians see 30 clients a week. Some see, which I can't even imagine doing that. I don't see 30 clients a week.
I don't know how y'all do it.
But some see even more than that for shorter sessions. And it's seeing people consistently, back to back, sometimes with no break, that can leave you just feeling exhausted at the end of the day. But if you're doing that day after day after day, then it becomes a cycle that feels like it's never pretty much gonna end.
Yeah.
And that can cause you to feel okay, it's too much. I need a break from this. So we do get, I guess, peopled out because we're talking to people all the time, and people think therapy is just okay, I'm listening to you, but there's a lot of processing that happens. There's a lot of just planning in your mind as the person is talking, so that you can make connections for them, so that you can see what parts need to be tended to, and what work needs to be happen, so that you can guide them there, right? So it's not just I'm listening to you all the time. There's a lot of work that it comes with, and our minds if it's tired and burned out, it's going to be harder to do that.
Yes, and thank you for talking about that. I don't think people realize the mental processing. People talk about how ChatGPT operates on generators. Well, that's us too. Our brains are processed. So we're sitting there like this, and you're just thinking, oh, you just get to sit there and work from home and listen to people. But I'm my brain is it can, and then there's also the energy of taking on someone's problems. Like, I think there's like an energetic transfer that happens, that you're hearing these things and it feels like you feel that, right? And so I think in the helping profession, I think that burnout happens because you're peopled out, because you're processing mentally, probably emotionally as well, and then spiritually. Because we talked about being utilized as vessels. And I know, like, sometimes if I have like visualizations of like things that come to me, I get tired.
Right.
I get so tired. I'm like, oh my gosh, what was that? Like, it's like, you know how like it's a vessel you're being used and it is gone and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to like
take
sleep.
a moment.
Right. Or feeling like you're battling something from your client. Like there's some resistant spirit. I know this sounds weird, but resistant energy or resistant spirit. Sometimes I feel that fight and I'm like, oh my goodness. I was like I leave sometimes like, oh my gosh, I just need to sit on the couch and doom scroll, which is not helpful either. But I just need some type of way to like disconnect and like breathe.
Yeah, it does get pretty intense when you're a feeler and you're like taking on, like I'm grateful that I don't take my client stuff beyond the session, that I'm able to kind of like say, okay, God, like this is what we talked about today. I release it to you and I can go and just tend to my kids or live my life or do other things, unless like I have to do something specific to prepare for a next session or something.
Yeah, I like that.
But like actually you feel it like physically.
Yes.
Because I think of it this way, that I'm literally carrying this with you. And in the imaginative and exercises we do, I have people sometimes give me some of the burden and I'm holding it. And sometimes the weight is actually felt physically for me. So if you're a feeler out there and then you're carrying all of that, it's much more easier for you to get burned out, because imagine seeing 8-9 people in a day, and then all of that, you carrying that to the end of your day. That can be a lot. And at the end of the week, you just don't have any more capacity.
Yeah, you said one boundary. A boundary is, I'm not taking this with me outside of this space.
I can't.
And I think early clinicians, they take, well, I think they do. And I also talk for myself. As an early clinician, I took that home. Like I'm thinking about it and all that stuff. And I love that you said that you prayed and gave it to God. Like, here you go. So I can go about the rest of my day. And so even if you're like, you do that and then you find yourself the next day still thinking about a particular session or whatever, you can continue giving it back to God. Here, take this back. I think it would be it's just really helpful to just a continuous unburdening of yourself of that thing. And so I like that being a boundary. One boundary is, do not take your work home with you, even if you work from home. Once you're done in that space, be done.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm thinking about the clinician that actually is working with people that are always in crisis.
Oh, gosh.
Right? Because that makes a huge difference. The clients that I work with don't come with, like, they're not in crisis 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, we process through, like, childhood trauma, things like that, things that they've gone through, current things that they're dealing with, but they're not, like, mostly, like, dealing with desires to unalive themselves, to hurt themselves, to harm themselves. So that may look different, and that may be a little bit more difficult for the clinician that is dealing with somebody who, with a lot of clients that are actually in crises all the time.
That's true. And I think the boundary with that is, how often do you work? You know, because you said there's people who work 30 clients to 40 clients a week. If you're working with 30 to 40 clients a week and that's in constant crisis, you either have a beautiful, amazing titanium capacity and bandwidth, and you're just gifted for that, or I'm wondering, are you burnt out and you don't know it? And so what are some ways that people could be burnt out and not know that they're being burnt out?
Yeah. I think we can get stuck in routines. We can convince ourselves, like we lie to ourselves all the time and say, this is only temporary, this is not going to be for long, I can do this for a little bit longer. And then this turns into a year, it turns into 2 years of you being in the same cycle and pattern. And your body could be communicating, hey, like, you need to pause, you need to slow down, you need to do all of this in the form of sickness. Like you can start getting sick and stuff like that, because your body's trying to tell you that you are burned out, but you treat the sickness as just sickness as opposed to a message that your body is pretty much sending to you and say, hey, like, you need to slow this down. You need to deal with this. You need to deal with that. So I think these are some of the ways. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was trying to think of what other ways could we normalize something that actually is burnout. I think feeling neutral. If you feel like, oh, lately I've been feeling pretty neutral, but it's just apathetic. It's apathy.
Yeah.
I think we tend to normalize like not being impacted by our clients at all as like, oh, but I'm good though. I've been doing this work for years and it doesn't impact me at all. And that could be true. Also consider, are you burnt out to where your client could say something that's really like heartbreaking, and instead of being in that moment with them, you're just kind of like,
because the nervous system disconnects so that you can be able to get through the next 5 or 6 sessions and you don't have to carry that in the moment.
You think that's normal, like, oh, I'm more professional, I'm more seasoned. No,
it's not.
I think you're disconnected. I think you're burnt out. And so that's something to be mindful of. I'm trying to think of what are some other boundaries that we have put in place to prevent burnout, or what were times that we felt burned out and realized it? Do you have one?
Times when I felt burned out. I have an example. Not so long ago, I have had a lot that was going on, like personally in my life. So I found myself just going into my sessions. I was just getting through them. I was exhausted. I wasn't sleeping enough. I was just showing up just to show up because I had an appointment in the calendar. So I actually, as I was doing my sessions, there was a couple of sessions where there was something that I said or something like that that needed me to go, that caused me to have to go back to do some repair with the client because it didn't land well with them. And at that time, I just showed up in the session and I felt like, man, like I'm just here. And of course, like I was mindful of how I was showing up, but I'm just here. I just can't wait for this session. I usually enjoy my sessions. I usually just come out of them feeling more energized. But this specific week, I was just like, man, I'm just gonna get through this, and then after this, I'll go do other things and stuff like that. So that to me, like, was, after I thought about it afterwards, after I had those 2 bad sessions, they were bad sessions. I'll call them bad sessions. After I had those two bad sessions, I had to literally go back and take care of myself because I hadn't slowed down. I was working through the weekend. I don't usually work on the weekend. So all my boundaries were out the door. I was working through the weekend so that I can finish whatever project that I was working on. And that kind of like impacted me because my brain hasn't had a chance to really be to rest or to be replenished in a way. So I had to actually, after I took care of myself, the following session, work on repair with my clients. Not like, and that looks like apologizing. That looks like, taking accountability and saying like, okay, like this thing that I said, or the way that I put this thing, and I brought it up, right? I didn't brush it off. I brought it up and say, oh, like last week, this happened between us. We need to be able to kind of like talk about it and let us kind of like just resolve it so that we can get back to the healing, right? And that can be the focus. But yeah, like it doesn't happen to me often, but like that was like a very like recent example of me being completely drained and exhausted, and it did have an impact on my sessions.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. You shared a few things. You shared the importance of rest and how when you don't rest and you reach a place of burnout, how it can impact the work that you're trying to do. And so you're doing all this work to help and to do and to provide materials or whatever for other people, and then you end up not being able to do that because of all the work that you're doing, right? And so there's like a balance that's needed. Right, and I also heard you say the beautiful thing of first taking care of yourself And by you being able to take care of yourself, you were able to go back and repair the little ruptures that happen with your clients. And I think that does something to your nervous system too, where you kind of train your nervous system to say, okay, we were, whatever, we're going to get to rest, we get to relax, and then we get to go back and correct this thing. And it kind of teaches your brain like, oh no, this is okay, right? Because we're human. We are human. I remember one time, when was this? 2019, 2018, 2019. I had a supervisor. I was working at a private practice, and I was telling my supervisor, I said, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I think I'm done.
You were
And
burned
she's
out.
like, wait, what? I was like, I think I'm done. I was like, I don't really care what anyone has to say. And she was looking at me like, Jarena, this doesn't sound like you at all. It sounds like the opposite of you. I was like, I don't care what anyone has to say. They just need to find somebody else. I'm done. So she was like, Jarena, have you been sleeping? I say, yes, I have been sleeping. And she was like, do you think you're burnt out? And I was like, oh. She's like, when was your last vacation? I was like, I don't know. And she's like, I think you're burned out. And I think that's the thing too, kind of what I was saying earlier, like that kind of apathy where you think logically, like I've slept, I've been sleeping, I eat well, I work out. So my body's not stressed, but I am burnt out.
Right.
Where I didn't care and I wanted to quit. And I took a vacation. And when I took a vacation, I was like, I love my clients. I love what I do. I'm called to do this. Like I was back online, right? And so it is very important to actually have someone point it out to you. And we're going to talk more about that a little bit later, about the importance of having people around. But also just being able to recognize it in yourself and the steps that you need to take to work on burnout. So you said something interesting. You said, I threw all my boundaries out the window. Can you talk about the boundaries that you do have that can help other people learn how to stay away from burnout as much as possible?
Yeah, I know my capacity when it comes to one-on-one work with clients. I'm not the kind of therapist that can see 8, 9 people in a day. My max is 5, 6. And that's if I'm really pushing myself. I can't do that many. So because I also like doing other things, and I balance my business in a way where I'm doing creative things, I'm doing events, I'm doing just teaching workshops and things like that. So I can't sit with a bunch of clients in a day and I feel like that's all I'm doing. Then I'm just gonna just be uninterested and not find the work as enjoyable as I find it to be. So one is determining what your capacity is so that you can be able to see how many clients realistically that you can see. And I don't let money determine how many clients I see. I let my capacity determine that. And I allow the money to come through other avenues and other places so that I can support myself financially and do the things that I need to do, basically. So that's the most important things. How many clients do you see?
No.
What's your max?
My max in a week would be 12.
Okay.
No, I could do 15. 15, because I could do 5, 10, 15. Like 5, 5, and 5.
Yeah, I keep my schedule to 3 days too.
Yeah.
Mostly see clients 3 days a week. The 2 other days I can breathe. I can do other things and do some business things and things like that so that I'm not pretty much overwhelmed by everything else throughout the week.
And it's so funny. Thank you for saying that. So that's a boundary too, right? Like how many clients can you see in a day? How many clients can you see in a week? What does your week schedule look like? Maybe you need to have clients day off if you work for yourself.
Yeah.
Those of you who don't and you work for corporations or nonprofits, I know that could be a little bit more difficult because of the narratives of those spaces, which is like, what would you say, like productivity, right? Is like being able to see all these clients. And then like the languaging of you not caring as much if you didn't allow yourself to if you didn't push yourself to see so many clients. And I think that could be really dangerous. What are your thoughts, especially for clinicians of color, when it comes to these messages about go, 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 go?
Yeah, we need space, especially because of the type of work that this is. In order for you to be like what we call a good therapist, you need space to be able to take care of yourself. You need balance. You need to be able to kind of like have a social life. You need to have like other things that you do that you look forward to, so that when you're in the room with the client, you can actually show up and do the full work that is required, your full attention and all of that with them. And then you have other things to look forward to that have to do with your life and things that you enjoy. So in those spaces where when we find ourselves like, I have I think a friend, she does like sessions back to back, and there was a space that was requiring her to do like no break in between back to back sessions. How does it work? Like one of the boundaries is the sessions are 45 to 50 minutes, so that the 10-minute in between session, I can get a drink of water, I can stretch, I can get up, I can move around. So I'm not falling asleep in the middle of the session, and I'm not so exhausted that I can't pretty much focus and pay attention to what is that's happening. Yeah. So something as tiny as like a 5 to 10-minute break in between sessions is a boundary that is beneficial and helpful in just the work that we're doing.
Yeah, I'll say 10 minutes.
At least 10 minutes. I do 10 to 15, except with that one.
Yeah, I think that's really, really, really important. And I think you said something in the car that I thought was really interesting about these messages and like cultural and system messages for like helping people, about this idea of you need to perform, you need to do work in order, like if you care about people, you do that. And you said, well, it's not a non-for-profit. Do you remember what you said?
Yeah,
Say
no,
it.
I
You
don't.
don't remember it? Dang it, I told you to remember it. You said something like, you know, yes, we are here to help and we're here to like support people in their healing journey, but this is not a nonprofit. This is a business.
It's a business, yeah.
Right. It is a business, it's a practice, and we have these souls. And I started chuckling and I was like, nonprofit worker here. Definitely transitioned from nonprofit to private practice back to back, and I saw some of those similar traits, and that's why I'm happy I had a supervisor, because the supervisor, she was able to point out things to me as in, I think you're burnt out. I think you need time. How about I take this client off this time? You know, like she was like working with me to help me out, because I came from the nonprofit sector where it's like if you care and you love and you're passionate, you're going to give until you die. You're going to give until you bleed. And that's how you prove your dedication and love to this work. And I think clinicians, especially clinicians of color, especially women clinicians of color, that idea of worth being tied to productivity as well as passion and being nurturing and caring for people, I think those can layer up, so that can lead you straight into the road of burnout. Right. I won't say the road to hell, but that's horrible. But the road to burnout, which could feel like hell if you don't take care of yourself. Yeah, you can. You said something in the car. You was like, you can have a nervous breakdown, and you're like, okay, that's a bit extreme. And I said, no, I think that's true. You can have a nervous breakdown. I think because women of color, especially Black women, I think because we are almost cultivated to be a certain way, we learn how to take so much on. But I think they'll get to a point where we'll just break down, whether we'll have like a nasty attitude, and that's some other signs, right? That you're burnt out, you have a nasty attitude, you find yourself really short, snippy, irritable, your thinking is kind of cloudy, you know, like
lack of focus.
Like there's these different things that are happening to you, and you're just thinking, someone's like, oh, it's hormonal, it's probably this and that. And it's like, no, you need to rest. Sit down somewhere. Something I told a client, I told her, SYAD. And I didn't say the whole thing. And she's like, SYAD? And I was like, yes. I was like, I think you need to look into SYAD. And so she was like, you're not going to tell me what it is? I was like, I don't think that's appropriate. So she looked it up and she was like, I was like, yes. So she started cracking up and she was like, you're right. I do need to. And I was like, yes, I think some of you all need some SYAD. Just go on, sit down. Yeah. Take it to the Lord in prayer. So I wanted to kind of talk about the idea of private practice, because something I said was I was so happy I had that supervisor at the time. Otherwise, I was going to quit and just not be a therapist, right? Can we talk about the challenges that come with being in private practice?
Yeah. Private practice is a whole, like, different challenge. Being a therapist is great and all, but it's very different from like running your own practice, because that comes with a new set of challenges. Oh, like the first few years is all about learning. I don't know how many classes and things that I had to take to learn the business side of things, because there's no business class.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I did not take not a
You-
lick of a business class.
I take so many courses and things to be able to learn how to run a business, because I have an idea of building like a big business, right? I'm not trying to keep something small here. So I needed to kind of like go and do the trainings and take the courses, and so much money is spent in learning those things. It's necessary, right? And it comes like the challenges. That's what you were asking about. You have to learn the business side of things, or it's not going to succeed. You have to learn marketing. Marketing is number one. I don't enjoy it, because I just would like to prefer to stay in the Zoom room with my clients.
Just come.
But how are they gonna know?
Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend.
That works. Word of mouth. Word of mouth is amazing, but if you want to expand, it's not.
I know.
It's not enough overall. But yeah, I would say mostly the business, learning it is the thing to keep in mind when we talk about private practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the challenge is definitely the business, because you have to think with your business brain and then your healing brain. That's a lot to hold. So that goes back to like the mental processing, right? Like you're sitting with the client, you're doing work, you're doing the healing process, and that's a lot on its own. And then you have a business to run, because you don't have like insurance from your company. Like if you don't work, you don't get paid. I think that's a challenge, where it's like, I think summer 2023, I took a week off to go to Puerto Rico for my cousin's wedding.
No paycheck.
Child, I came back. It was tight. It was tight for a long time, because I had to play catch up, and I didn't have the business or the financial like mindset to be like, oh, I need to save up this much because I'm going to miss this gap. Or I didn't think like that. I had no one to tell me that. So I struggled. Hard trying to like wiggle around and all that stuff. And so there's a lot of challenges in that, and that can lead to burnout. That can lead to stress and discouragement. Versus working for a company. I guess there's pros and cons, because if you work for a nonprofit as a clinician or a community or a hospital, you're getting that paycheck whether you work or not, because you have time off, of course. But then they're expecting you to see like volumes of clients.
Yeah.
And then on the other end, you can select your day. Like, I'm going to work 3 days out of 7 days a week. That sounds beautiful. It sounds amazing. But once again, your lifestyle, the things that you want to do, like that, it's strictly tied to what you can do. So those are some challenges there too. And that's why it's so important to have boundaries. And I think it's also important, I think a boundary is, I will learn the business.
Right.
That's me talking to myself.
No, you have to. You have to, because there are ways for you to build a practice so that you can take time off. I encourage my clinicians to actually take some time off every 6 months or so that they can take care of themselves. And once my practice starts doing a lot better, I will be able to kind of like just pay them during that time so they can be able to sustain themselves.
I'll start working for
because
Sabbath,
if we are a practice that is representing God and actually is serving people, our clinicians need to be taken care of, and they need to be compensated in a way that they will never think about going anywhere else. So that's the faith statement that I'm putting out there.
I love that. Well, you're also talking about rest. That is in the Bible. So we didn't talk about the spiritual aspect of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I do know, like westernized Christianity, blah, blah, blah. But the Bible that I read and the Yeshua, Jesus, that I serve and follow, he rested.
He did.
He did work.
Regularly.
And he rested. He went away on a mountain. I'm going to pray. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to take a nap. Like, I'm going to do these things. And I thought he did a really great job at personifying contemplative rhythms. Like, he had a contemplative lifestyle. I'm going to teach. I'm going to heal. I'm going to walk amongst the people. And I'm also going to rest. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to take a nap. Like, these are the things that I'm going to do to sustain me to continue doing this work while I'm here. And I think that is so, so important. And I don't know what I was talking about. I
And his
lost
work
it.
is so similar to ours, right? Because he
Yes.
was literally holding people. He was listening to them. He was healing them, and he was with them. He was teaching. All of it's very similar to what it is that we do. And when you think about that, if you try to do work only without actually leaving space for rest, it doesn't work. And that's one thing actually that God's been really convicting me about for 2026. He's been saying that that I need to to go at a different rhythm, because so far it's been, all right, I'm laying foundation. Like the end of 2025 was all about laying foundations for a lot of things that are coming, but it's like, I'm going to take you into a different rhythm where more time for prayer, more time for meditation, more time for you sitting at my feet, just listening to what it is that I'm telling you. There's this girl that's coming to my mind right now. Most of what she does is like, she went before she even goes and have a coaching session with her clients. Her name is Bria. Before she has coaching sessions with her clients, she sits down with God and she actually listens to strategy and directions. And that's the approach that I'm taking moving forward, because I can do as much as I can do and it still come up not enough. But the moment, the hours that I take and I sit with God and actually listen to instructions for the specific things that the clients show up with, that I may not see, that I may not know, because the spiritual side of things, it doesn't always show up like that clearly in the session.
No.
And we need to be able to go deeper with clients to be able to recognize, okay,
What's going on?
this is psychological, this is mental, this is spiritual. And God has to reveal the spiritual side of things so that we can be able to see it, so that we don't throw coping mechanisms and mental health stuff at something that should be dealt with
Spiritual.
on a spiritual level.
Yeah, I like that you said that. I think that's something I started practicing doing. My childhood friend, her aunt actually said to her, like, you need to tell your friend the type of work she's doing is powerful and she's absorbing a lot and all that jazz. She's like, but make sure she prays at the beginning and at the end of every session to protect herself and to protect her clients as well. And something I started doing, because I heard that and I started doing it, but I was doing it very checklisty. And so that's not sustainable for the type of brain that I have. But because I've been more contemplative and I just talk to God, I'll say, ooh, okay, we have a next session. I do a rundown. I was like, so you let me know what I need to say, close my mouth with the things that I don't need to say and whatever. And my clients have gotten used to me sitting there and I'll like stop and I'll listen. And I'm like, And they're like, say it. And I'm like, no, I don't think I need to say that. I will eventually, but not right now. Actually, this is what I want to say. What about X, Y, and Z? And they're willing to like be a part of that
trust you.
process. And they like that. They're like, oh, that's how Dorina works. Or they'll watch my face. They're like, uh-oh. What's the Holy Spirit telling you, girl? But the reason why I brought up the spiritual aspect is that with that support, it's support. That's what I meant. Like it's a resource. I don't like to call the Holy Spirit a resource, but it's kind of like a resource where sometimes I can leave a session feeling absolutely refreshed because I was literally just the vessel. Like I was like, I remember I got off a session and I was like, I gave the sky a high five. I was like, yo, Holy Spirit, you came through. I was like, I actually feel refreshed because I was tired. And you like, you did your thing. That wasn't me, baby boy. Like that was you. Like it was but it was such a good thing. And so when thinking about boundaries and burnout and finding the balance, I think the integration of the spiritual aspect of things and checking in on ourselves and having that creates a beautiful balance and ecosystem, especially when we're doing private practice alone, because it's insular. You kind of sometimes it can be kind of isolating.
It can.
Yeah, but what I want to talk about as we close out is this idea of clinical community or like a healing community and the importance of it. And so, ladies, gents, guys, dolls, humans, cats, if you're listening, dogs, we're going to conclude this part of our talk about boundaries and burnout, and then we're going to go into talking about the beauty of balance and clinical community to kind of keep us sustained and keep us going.
And let us know in the comments anything that you're doing that can be helpful to the rest of us.
Yes.
That helps you with burnout, that helps you balance your life out a little bit more. And this is for clinicians, this is for clergy, this is for anyone that is pretty much in the healing profession overall.
Yes. So with that, we will see you next time.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Clinicians Table. For more conversations like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel or listen wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time.